Bada bing, bada boom.
The police had just discovered a few months ago that there was dark web level activity on an app called Telegram. There were originally 8 Nth Rooms, the originals. So God and an accomplice of his, they would advertise these 8 rooms on Twitter. And at the start, they really only had a few people coming in. Tickets would start at less than $8 each per chat room. Cheaper than a movie ticket, cheaper than movie theater popcorn. But that's the point. God never really cared about the money. He was here mainly for the torture, for the creation of these videos. He was the creator of it all. God would write, "These slaves didn't follow instructions and escaped, so you may do with them as you please. And I assure you, I do not leak videos of slaves who comply with all their given orders. Signed, God." It was weird. It's almost like he's saying that they wronged him in this game and now they need to be punished. That's why he's doing this. It's all a game to him. Most of God's videos were about 3 minutes long, and in just 1 hour, 50 to 60 photos or videos of girls could be sent into the chat rooms. I mean, the list of acts that they would be forced to perform was viciously long. They were in almost every single video on all fours. They were forced to bark like a dog, sneak into men's restrooms, and film themselves doing things to themselves. Not in the stall, but like in the middle, hoping that no one's going to come in. In black Sharpie, they'd have to write on themselves, slave, bitch, personal toilet, personal body parts. When God got bored of having all those words on the victims, he would have them carve slave into their skin with knives. That was the majority of the videos. Every week, you would see the torture escalate to become more humiliating, more violent. It went from writing God slave on their bodies to carving it and then piercing their skin with needles. For God, he'd started with just very specific part of a woman's chest to be pierced. And to do that at home is very painful. To do that to yourself is very painful, but it is something that is done for some people who like it as like a stylistic choice. But of course, these girls, they didn't have a choice. They're victims in this. They were being forced. But he felt like that wasn't enough. So he wanted them to take a sewing needle and a thread and pierce it through their breast tissue and flesh and then pull it out the other end. These orders would be sent to multiple middle and high schoolers. He'd have them grab their sewing kits and pick the largest needle, thread it with string, and grab a chunk of their flesh and just string through. While they would say, "I'm God's slave," and their hands would be shaking. I mean, they would plunge it into their flesh, and it wasn't just like a prick or a flu shot. They would have to thread the needle in and out of their flesh as if they're giving themselves stitches for a wound that doesn't even exist. They're creating a wound. Some sources say that God demanded that they used a light-colored thread so that he could see that they went deep enough, so much so that the thread would turn deep red. Sometimes, after tunneling through the flesh, the needle would come out on the other end, and then the red thread would follow, and he would force them to take off the needle. The thread is still in their body, and he would get them to get the 2 sides of the thread, tie it to a heavy object, and let it just slowly stretch their skin, and it would be excruciatingly painful. He called it the skin-stretching torture. Yeah, I mean, the best way I could describe it is if you were to get a belly button piercing and then hang something heavy right off of it. The chat room would have non-stop activity of people commenting things like, "It looks delicious. Her face isn't my type though. I want to see her lick the toilet. Make her get down on her knees and cry." They would beg the creator of the chat room, "The doctor, please just send her address. We just want to know where she is. Because what's the fun if we can't go R-word her? We promise we'll film it." God runs the Nth Rooms, the original torture chambers of the Telegram chat rooms. Nth Room did not just consist of one Telegram chat room. The name Nth Rooms is used to describe a collection of rooms created by God. And in the beginning, there were only 8 rooms. But with more demand, with more supply, with new victims, more chat rooms would pop up. Another Nth Room, then 2, then 4, then 16. The Nth Rooms were like opening a door into this long spiral staircase into the depths of hell, and you start walking down the staircase, just spiraling into the void, and you start opening these doors, and every door that you open, there's new people, new girls, new victims that are forced to perform for a camera. And then when you think that you've gotten to the bottom, that it cannot possibly get darker, that there's not another level, the spiral staircase winds even more, and a new door appears, and then another, and then another. In math, the letter N can represent a sequence of numbers that continues into infinity. So eventually the term Nth Room becomes an umbrella term for any online chat room with explicit torture content. So the Nth Rooms, they became synonymous with CP. Can you give me a link to the Nth Rooms? It's basically, can you give me a link to an illegal Telegram chat room? At the height of the Nth Rooms, God had personally distributed 3,762 videos. This is not including the videos shared by other users. To God, this was not a business or a day job or even a way to make money. One of the biggest, largest marketplaces for CP and torture videos on Telegram, he made $675, period.
How long was it?
Like over a year. God was to these depraved people a legend. And that's when God decides, I'm going to retire. I'm going to disappear at the height of the Nth Rooms. Nobody knew why. He contacted one of his victims out of the blue and said, all of my actions were part of a game. I'm just contacting you to let you know that all the behaviors that you engaged in were just part of a fun game for me. But I have to go now. I have to go play MapleStory, which is notoriously a game that younger people play. He would kind of make it seem like he's in high school and nobody knew if it was true. He would log off for months. He handed control to the Nth Rooms over to a man called the Watchman, and then he vanished. God was gone. For now. March 2019, Cho starts scribbling on his walls in his room. Lots of scribbles. Random variations of numbers, letters. I mean, it's illegible to everybody but himself. And when that was perfected, when he looked back into his room and he's like, this is good, he would create a chat room on Telegram. Perhaps he was inspired by his surgery or something like that because he named it the doctor's room. Cho had been lurking on these Telegram chat rooms for a while now, consuming content. But now with God, the monopoly of the chat room's gone, vanished mysteriously. He sees an opening. He feels like the keys to the kingdom are ripe for the taking. And what's a kingdom without a God? And who better to help the CP-starved population than the good old doctor? A video a day keeps the doctor away. Now, the doctor runs the doctor's rooms, an expansive network of chat rooms that amass likely over 100 victims. He would get an ID from the watchers, but the most important step for him was the payment. His rooms would start at $187 and go all the way up to $1,200. And that's just the entry fee. If you want additional bespoke, tailor-made content, there would be a fee for that as well. Even though the doctor has the more profitable business with a wider reach, God has the reputation. Everybody wanted to be in the Nth Rooms. They were more exclusive, more personal. The doctor was all about money. You would have to pay, $1,200 to join a VIP room? And then once you join, if you want the address to a victim's house, if you want to request a specific type of torture, you'd have to pay another fee for that. The problem with the doctor's method is that guess who else has access to money and fake IDs?
The police?
Yes. The police had infiltrated the chat rooms. They were in the doctor's room. March 16th, 2020, like a year after he starts his Telegram. Cho Ju-bin, we're just going to call him Cho. He had been arrested while he's learning how to ride a bike from his dad, and the police are now accusing him of being the doctor. I mean, the police had so much evidence against Cho, though, and he knew it. He very quickly, same day, admits, you know what? I am, in fact, the doctor. So he takes one last breath, grabs the pen from his pocket, and shoves it into his throat. He was going to die by swallowing this pen. Because even he knew prison is no place for doctors. One of the first things that the police noticed when they searched Cho's house were the writings on the wall. Literally, his entire bedroom was filled with scribbles all over the walls. And they didn't seem like scribbles of someone who had lost their grasp on reality and they're like losing their minds. This felt very intentional. Like the scribbles are meaning something. Like the numbers and the letters, they all point to something. And they did. I mean, the police just didn't know what. All the officers' heads slowly turned. And on the ceiling was more writing. A password. It would unlock his second phone. In the photo album of the second phone were the personal IDs of many of his victims. Explicit pictures and videos were found of over 90 different victims just on this one phone. And a surprising conversation between the doctor and God of the Nth Rooms. God suggested if we go down, we should take all the victims down with us. Now they need to catch God. They would message into the chat room, hey God, there's been a new tip line opened up. They've been collecting information about you through this link. God's finger hovered over the blue link, and then he clicked. They were in.
Just like that, one click.
One click.
That's scary.
The
Wow.
police would use those key factors to pinpoint his location, and they would go hunt down God. They were led to a junkyard, and in the midst of all the trash, they see a man standing there in front of them with like 10 to 15 phones just in his arms. The police seize his phones, they handcuff him, they get a full view of his shirt. It's like a black whale on his shirt, just like a whale shirt. It was so anticlimactic, the police said it didn't even feel real. The God, who is now finally in custody, I mean, it was so clear he's no God. He also had a very similar complexion to Cho, the doctor. So both were on the, quote, heavier side with moon-shaped faces. That's how they're described by media. They're both very young, only 24, both of them. They're both like in college or just graduated.
That's so crazy how identical they are.
They're both really smart too. They both had really great grades in college and got into pretty prestigious colleges. God was an architecture student. Yeah. And Cho was a writing student. Very interesting, right?
Is that why they thought Cho was really good at writing?
Yeah, and he would use all these like very traditional Korean words that no young people use. That's why they thought he was 50.
I see.
But he's actually 24. As the police escorted him into the car, he would just repeat, I'm sorry, all over again. But it's so empty.
피해자분들과 피해자 가족들에게 죄송합니다.
왜 어린이 학생들한테만
네, 죄송합니다.
He would even argue, well, I only received $675 for the videos. So it's not that big of a deal. I didn't even make a lot of money.
That made him worse.
Yeah. But his statement was considered tame compared to that of the doctors. He was first seen in public with a neck brace on because he kept trying to harm himself. He comes out to the public and at first, his face is blank. He's just not making eye contact, staring out. The reporters asked him, okay, a lot of your victims are underage. Do you feel guilty about that at all? He just responded, thank you for putting a brake on the life of a devil that cannot be stopped.
멈출 수 없었던 악마의 삶을 멈춰주셔서 정말 감사합니다.
And then August 2021, a blog went up on Naver, and it was titled, I'm Cho Ju-bin, aka the Doctor of Telegram. There would be a total of 6 articles posted, and the blog would open. I opened this blog and Instagram account as channels to express my opinion, which is the truth.
Wait,
Cho,
this was when he's in jail?
yeah,
What?
his dad was doing it for him. Was what I did really that bad? And also, is it okay to mock someone like this? Does this make sense? Do you think this case is resolved because of my sentence?
Oh my God.
No, it's wrong.
This even shows more that he has no concept of what he did.
He has zero remorse. The Dr. Cho even had time in prison to make a pen pal. Do you guys remember the child star married a man, ended up cheating on him, and he mysteriously died in a cliff jumping incident? He became her pen pal, giving her tips on how not to incriminate herself. So yeah, I don't think he feels any remorse. So God, Moon Hyun-wook was finally in custody. And Seoul became Gotham City. I mean, how is anybody going to sleep comfortably at night knowing that these types of chat rooms exist and that 1 in every 200 men in Korea could have been on these chat rooms? Ordinary women who have never even imagined something like this could take place, they're forced to face the idea that someone that they know, someone at work, their boss, their pastor, their husband, brother, dad, son, could be a watcher. I mean, it felt like full chaos in the city. The week of when the news of the Nth Rooms really exploded, all these explicit adult websites had a spike in searches that included variations of the words Telegram, Nth Room chat room, Korean high school, Korean middle school, Korean chat room middle school.
Wow.
And this was not just in South Korea. It wasn't just South Koreans searching this. This was happening globally. So after hearing the horrors of the Nth Room, there were people who wanted to see it for themselves, for the pleasure. People would end up dying. At least 6 people self-exited in connection with the Nth Room case. They were exposed as watchers of the Nth Rooms, and they were scared of the consequences of their actions. Yeah, they could not stomach the idea of dealing with the consequences. But they could stomach the visuals of hundreds of girls being tortured. The police tracked down 124 people in relation to the crimes, and 18 people were formally detained. The doctor and God were sick, but these guys were just as depraved and sick for helping these 2. One of them, An Sung-jin, helped God, and he alone had distributed over 1,000 child exploitation videos. He even essayed a 12-year-old girl, and when he was asked, why would you do that? He said he R-worded her out of, quote, sexual curiosity.
Wow. Try to imagine saying that as an answer.
Yeah, I don't even... A lot of netizens asked, South Korean netizens were asking, it feels like the judges won't change the laws because they participate in these activities, and if they get caught, they don't want harsh punishments. That's what it feels like, because why else would you not change it? It doesn't make any sense. And in the end, the doctor, Cho, was sentenced to 45 years in prison. That's it. The judge said his behaviors caused extreme pain on the victims and they are demanding of severe punishment. It would later be appealed and he would get 42 years. Meanwhile, God was sentenced to only 34 years in prison. It's speculated that he was actually given less time because he didn't have strong financial gains from his crimes, which I feel like the opposite. It's like he's even, I don't know.
Yeah,
a lot of netizens argue he's worse because he wasn't even doing it for money. He was literally doing it for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Every day, there were dozens of different chat rooms appearing and disappearing, copycat rooms, spin-off rooms. I mean, at the time of our investigation, there were hundreds of rooms with some variation of the Nth Room in their names, even if they weren't run by God. Those are just the ones that we know of right now. But who's to say there aren't more? I mean, I don't think that ended with the doctor or God. But that is what we have with the Nth Rooms and the doctor's rooms. What are your thoughts? Please stay safe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.